Morning. Welcome to a fresh edition of your breakfast from Leadership Television inside Nigeria. Today we are looking at what the papers are saying, and of course that is on the first half of the program. My name is Winifred Ogbebo, your host on the program. Today is August 26, 2025, and we head up to Leadership newspaper where we start off or kick off our first review. Incidentally, all the papers we have on our lineup today are talking about PDP's zoning formula. Of course, Nigeria's most influential newspaper, Leadership, is no exception. Let's go there and see Leadership's offering. PDP zoning of presidential ticket to South sparks comments. PDP zoning of presidential ticket to South sparks comments. ACF, PDP, other parties zoning not covered by constitution. Wike, G5 vindicated aid. Kickers to the leading story on today's leading cover story. PDP zoning of presidential ticket to South sparks comments. Why ACF, that is Arewa Consultative Forum, says PDP other parties zoning not covered by constitution. The aid says Wike and G5 vindicated. And the story runs on page 4 of Leadership. Perhaps we'll just take some excerpts from the cover story. The People's Democratic Party, PDP, has zoned its presidential candidacy for the 2027 general election to the country's southern region. The party also retained the present zoning arrangement for the National Working Committee, NWC, offices with the national chair in the northern region. The National Executive Committee, NEC, made its decisions at its 102nd meeting yesterday, held at the PDP National Secretariat, Wadata Plaza in Abuja. The party's highest decision-making body further confirmed Ambassador Ilia Umar Damagun as the substantive national chairman of the party from yesterday until the party's national convention, which will be held at Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, between 15 and 16 November 2025. The meeting was attended by PDP state governors, including the chairman of the party's governors forum, Bala Mohammed Obuchi, Duoye Diri of Bayelsa, Daoud Alawa of Zamfara, Amadu Umaru Fitri of Adamawa, Sheyi Makinde of Oyo, and Ademola Adeleke of Osun. While Enugu State Governor Peter Mba took excuse that his state is hosting the Nigerian Bar Association NBA conference and that he is on a federal government delegation to Brazil. Excerpts from today's leading cover story on Leadership newspaper on PDP's zoning formula. And incidentally, like I said earlier, that's the leading story the papers we have on our lineup are leading with today, Tuesday, August 26, 2025. We move ahead to the other cover stories gracing the cover of Leadership. Professor Gambari says 1,000 insurgency groups operating in Africa. And the story continues on page 32 of the paper. Kingpin, 5 others named for shipping drugs in 3 lesser Hajj pilgrims' names. And that story is on page 20 of Leadership. Kingpin, 5 others named for shipping drugs in 3 lesser Hajj pilgrims' names. 3 dead, 17 rescued as boat capsizes in Borno. Parties accept mediation in Abia land dispute. Reactions as Atiku declares presidential bid is also another leading story on our lineup this Tuesday. As ASU begins nationwide protest, demands action on withered salaries. That story is on page 31 of Leadership newspaper. And towards the masthead of the paper, federal government issues fresh flood alert to 9 northern states. That story is on page 4 of Leadership. Federal government issues fresh flood alert to 9 northern states. And that takes us to the business boss of the paper, where we have the business story. The business story on the business boss this Tuesday says oil theft nearly 100% eliminated, says NNPCL GCEO. We'll take some excerpts. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, has said that Nigeria's oil and gas pipelines will soon attain 100% capacity utilization, as nearly all pipeline theft has been eliminated following coordinated efforts by the country's defense and intelligence agencies. The Group Chief Executive Officer of NNPCL, Bayo Ojulari, made this known at the opening ceremony of the Maiden African Chiefs of Defense Staff Summit on Monday in Abuja. Of course, that is a good one. Cheering news that Nigeria has been able to eliminate almost 100% of oil theft through its pipelines vandalization. We move ahead to the stories above the masthead of leadership. Premium Trust Bank meets 200 billion naira capital requirement for national commercial banks. That story continues on page 7 of leadership. And lastly, on the cover, federal government signs BASA agreement for direct flights to Brazil. Obviously, it's a fallout of President Bola Tinubu's state visit to Brazil, where he is currently. From that cover, we move to page 3 of the paper, where we have that massacre in Katsina Mosque. That massacre in Katsina Mosque. The stand today in leadership, who, as normal, take some excerpts. He says the gruesome murder of more than 40 residents of Ugwan Matau community in Malufashi local government area of Katsina State at the mosque during Fajr early morning prayers by a renegade band of evil men has further underscored the enormity of the insecurity currently rocking the nation. According to residents of this sleepy community, the attackers, who were armed and riding on motorcycles, struck in the early hours of the ill-fated day to wreak havoc, which has left many children orphaned, women widowed, and families completely devastated. The latest killings makes one wonder if gruesome murder by terrorists is not gradually becoming the new normal. We'll move towards the conclusion of the stand, where the paper actually takes a stand. It says, in our opinion, tackling entrenched insecurity like the type witnessed in Katsina, Zamfara, Sokoto, and other states of the Northwest requires a comprehensive approach, including addressing poverty, which has remained one of the key drivers. However, the greatest nut to crack in combating banditry and other crimes in these areas is to tackle the danger posed by informants and those who aid this criminality in the affected communities. The government must address the factors that keep banditry and other related crimes profitable in these areas. If the truth must be told, insecurity has become a high-stakes industry with a dangerous political angle that is fast becoming intractable. We are persuaded to believe that the security agencies know what is going on, but they lack the will to do what is necessary to bring an end to this scourge that is threatening to consume society itself. As from today's stand in leadership, today, Tuesday, August 2026, 2025, that's massacre in Katsina Mosque. From the stand, we go over to the back page of the paper, where we have Tuesday column with Abdurrauf Aliyu. Today's column is on Northeast between resilience and rain. Northeast between resilience and rain. Tuesday's column with Abdurrauf Aliyu. And the quote from the column says, the Northeast mixed PSPI performance underscores one central truth. Resilience alone is not development. Progress demands disciplined governance. Today's quote from the Tuesday column, Northeast between resilience and rain. Before we leave the back page, let's visit Ghana Must Go. The NAS says democracy has stabilized in Nigeria. And of course, Ghana Must Go says with room for budget padding. It's so funny. It's on that note we conclude review of Leadership newspaper this Tuesday. For more, log into www.leadership.ng. We move ahead to the next paper we have on our lineup. And that is The Guardian. The Guardian is still talking politics. Or before we take The Guardian, rather we go to Daily Sun newspaper. Daily Sun's leading story says, finally, PDP zones 2027 presidential ticket to South. Finally, PDP zones presidential ticket, 2027 presidential ticket to South. North retains chairmanship of the party, confirms Damagum substantive chairman. Supports women's seat 6 unity. We've been vindicated, Wiki, APC to PDP. Accept by election results as voter rejection. Kickers to the leading story on today's Daily Sun leading story cover. Finally, PDP zones 2027 presidential ticket to South. That story continues on page 6 of Daily Sun. Pro-government marketers deadlock hurts Dangote's nationwide fuel rollout. NDLEA detains 5 drug kingpins over arrest of 3 Nigerians in Saudi Arabia. The story continues on page 5 of Leadership. of Daily Sun, sorry. NDLEA detains 5 drug kingpins over arrest of 3 Nigerians in Saudi Arabia. Leadership also has that same leading story on its cover. CVRO, INEC records 1.379 million new registrants nationwide. Abia obedience to mobilize 4 million voters for PVC registration. Story runs on page 27 of Daily Sun. Zamfara ADC playing politics with human lives, PDP governors. And that takes us to the stories just beside the masthead and beneath the masthead on Daily Sun. ASU warns of looming crisis, accuses federal government of delayed tactics, says tertiary institutions loan poison chalice, unacceptable. Kicker to that leading story is also a story trending on the cover of Leadership. Federal government is equally fight over economy. Nigeria's economy wood, says Health Minister. Tinubu inherited bad economy, rebuilding it, Interior Minister. Lawyers hail Umba's transformative leadership strides in 2 years. Kickers to that story beside the masthead of Daily Sun. Federal government is equally fight over economy. And it continues on page 26 of Daily Sun. It's on that note to bring to a close review of front headline stories on Daily Sun newspaper. We head up to the next paper on our lineup, and that is The Punch. The Punch says 2027 presidency, Makinde orders to fight for PDP ticket. Like I said earlier, it's all about PDP zoning formula on today's Nigerian newspapers. Party zones 2027 ticket to South. Obi may consider PDP return, say obedient. APC insists opposition will lose in 2027. Of course, kickers to that PDP story. ECHO has to raise $2.5 billion for 260,000-man counter-terrorism force. Military retirees demand pay raise, national honors. Military retirees demand pay raise, national honors. Despite federal government's promise, Ekiti, Ondo federal rules see impassable. Despite federal government's promise, Ekiti, Ondo federal roads see still impassable. Power generation stock at 5,500 megawatts as Bayelsa gets regulatory authority. And we move to the story beside the masthead of The Punch. Osun, Lagos lead as 1.3 million complete voter card pre-registration. And that takes us to the stories above the masthead of The Punch. 13% derivation fund eases oil producing states debt by 611 billion naira. NASVA's critical assets shut down over ASU strike threat. External reserves projected to hit $45 billion by year end. And that story continues on page 21 of The Punch, even as we conclude review of The Punch headline stories. From The Punch, we move ahead to the next paper on our lineup, and that is Nigerian Tribune. Nigerian Tribune is also talking PDP zoning formula. It says battle for 2027 takes shape as PDP zones presidential ticket to South. North-South retain existing NWC positions, confirms Damagun as substantive chairman. Reaffirms commitment to Ibadan Convention. Governor's alleged plan to subvert convention. 1 members. Zoning of ticket to South will pave way for Tinubu's return. Olawekpo Hashim. Wike vindicated over zoning formula aid. APC to PDP, you stand rejected by Nigerians. These are kickers to the PDP zoning formula story on the cover of Nigerian Tribune. Meanwhile, the story continues on page 15 of Nigerian Tribune. Stakeholders raise concern over farm settlements inherited by Southwest states. Nigeria-Brazil signed direct flight agreement to deepen economic cultural ties. ASITO demands to have a strike as tells federal government. And other stories say insecurity, ECOWAS to deploy 260,000 counter-terrorism brigade, over 1,000 terrorist groups operating across African continents. Professor Gambari. CVRO, 1,379,342 registered in 1 week. Osun leads in pre-registration exercise to continue. Osun leads in pre-registration exercise to continue till August 2026. coming from INEC, and we move above the masthead. Reintroduction of 4% FOB levy worries Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. Says charges may increase import cost on raw materials above 6.6 trillion naira. That story is on page 7 of Nigerian Tribune. Drug kingpin, 5 others in NDLEA linked over arrest of 3 Nigerians in Saudi Arabia. That story brings to a close the review of front headline stories on Nigerian Tribune this Tuesday. For more, log into the website of Nigerian Tribune. We move to the next paper we have on our lineup this Tuesday, and that is The Guardian. The Guardian's leading story says 2027 article signals interest as PDP heads for showdown with Tinubu. 2027 article signals interest as PDP heads for showdown with Tinubu. Southwest leads in new voters exercise as Southeast records lowest turnout. Federal government introduces mandatory ethics criminal screening for teachers. ICPC recovers 1.1 billion naira from Kano official as state dismisses claim. Tinubu seeks stronger Nigeria-Brazil ties, inks Basa deal. NDLEA bust drug cartel that framed Nigerian pilgrims in Saudi Arabia. Manufacturers lament as return of FOB levy causes a stir. Towards the masthead of The Guardian, U.S. defense new social media vetting for visa applicants. Family laments poor emergency response as woman dies in Lagos lagoon crash. 795 financial institutions among 1,369 firms facing data breach probe. And that also concludes review of front headline stories on The Guardian this Tuesday, August 26, 2025. For more, log into www.theguardian.ng. One viewers is on this note, we conclude today's Inside Nigeria. Unfortunately, our guest is unavoidably absent on today's show for the second half of the program. Well, don't forget to join us on this same station for news on the hour. My name is Winifred Ugbebo, and don't forget to join us for another fresh edition of the program tomorrow, Wednesday. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You